My name is Robert Hollinger. As Michelle had mentioned and gone through, our Vision 33 have been developing many solutions over the years and helping our customers to identify, gaps and bottlenecks in critical business processes. And the Lumiya solution is among the stack of our Vision 33 IP developed software, including, as Michelle had stated, Saltbox automations, our newest agentic AI copilot engine, as well as our SXP Brutos and Portal technologies. So we're here to support you on that. So one of the items is manual process and status quo. Both of them come at a cost. Companies today that are relying on manual process today create inefficiencies that drive up operating costs and risk falling behind much more tech-enabled competitors. Operational efficiencies include higher error rates, duplicate work, and slower workflows, which of course results in productivity loss. Time-consuming manual tasks decrease employee efficiency and throughput. And what happens is you have limited agility. Manual processes limit a company's ability to respond quickly to change and are at a competitive disadvantage. And there's also missed innovation opportunities. Firms not leveraging technology fail to discover new ways to improve processes. And of course, status quo comes at a cost as well. If a company is standing still in today's rapidly expanding technology tools, then they are not just standing still, they're actually falling behind and risking competitive regression. Whereas those companies that are leveraging and embracing expanded technology tools can improve competitive advantage and drive their business forward. And as your trusted business partner, trusted technology partner, we're here to help you improve your process efficiencies. Okay, so introducing Vision 33 Lumiya solution. Our Lumiya solution is not just a rebrand or an upgrade to iDocuments. It is a totally rebuilt from the ground up with the Azure Artificial Intelligence platform. So it is actually replacing some of the older OCR technology with the more advanced AI technologies. Lumiya is a highly efficient solution and is fully seamlessly integrated with SAP Business One. And this actually is a key differentiator and advantage to the Vision 33 Lumiya product. Many organizations provide solutions that are out there, but they're not integrated seamlessly into SAP Business One like Lumiya. As you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, Lumiya platform includes 3 core modules. We'll be looking at purchasing, sales, and expense. But in today's session, we're going to really focus primarily on the purchasing module, specifically AP processing, which is a very time-consuming and for many organizations is a very manual and chaotic process today. With its seamless integration to SAP Business One, Lumiya is a very powerful and efficient solution that offers a very low total cost of ownership. Sorry. Michelle will tell you a little bit more about the modules.
Great, thanks, Robert. So you may all ask, what is included in Lumiya? We will first go through the first 3 modules and the main functionalities, and you can feel free to take your time to read through the bullet points here. First one being purchase to pay. The goal here is to automate your supplier's invoices and to extract the data straight into Business One. It will go through a 3-way matching for PO, goods receipts, and then send the automated approval where the AP invoice is then generated in Business One. And at the end, there will be no more paper trails. It also includes a very strong, powerful dashboard, reports, and mobile app for users for easy access. Moving on to the second module, sales order automation. The sales order will be automatically generated and posted in Business One without any manual data entries. Automated sales order creation is based on PDF of customers' purchase orders. And when it comes to expense claim management, it is designed for your employees to upload receipts on their phone devices, and then it is mostly, we would say, 97% of accuracy for capturing their credit card expenses. And sending for approval, reimbursement, all of that is in one place. I would say a super big advantage of all of these 3 modules that you see is that they are all built to be in sync within Business One out of the box. No integration is needed, and you do not need to have a Business One license in order to use any of these modules for your user. So that also adds to saving a lot of costs there. Okay, let me pass it on to Eve now to show us some action of what Lumiya really looks like.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And once again, welcome everyone to this short session. We will be looking to Lumiya in a quick second, but I just want to start the journey here in SAP Business One, where what I want to show you is an example of an AP process that will zoom through the application fairly quickly. That will be my first example. I'll show you a second one after. But to begin with, I do have a purchase order that I have performed goods receipts against. So you've got right now this unique purchase order is actually, linked to two different goods receipt PO. The invoice is not there yet. That's the part we'll be working on together. Now, invoices in Lumiya, how can you get your invoices into Lumiya? Well, there are different ways you can get your transactions into Lumiya. The very first one, you can ask your vendors to send their PDF format invoices to a special email address of your choice. This is mine in my demo environment. So my vendor sent this invoice, and this is what the invoice looks like. All right, so this is the attachment you were just looking at a second ago in my email. It is for those items, so a unique invoice referring to the PO number we were looking into, or we were looking at, I should say, back in SAP Business One. So now that we've got this going and we know we're expecting the invoice, let's go process that invoice through Lumiya. For the purpose of the demonstration, I'll be flipping back and forth between the few users in Lumiya, between someone called AP user and someone called approver. For the very first example I'm going to give you, I'm going to sign in as the AP user. And what I do want you guys to know is that the dashboard you're looking at right now is an example of what a user can see when they log into Lumiya. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is it for everyone. It shows you some stats about transactions that are currently open, due for submission, or that failed the transaction. Lists out the transactions that I have processed recently, whatever they are, and the similar representation in the graph format. Now, what you guys need to know is that a user, if granted authorization to do so, can configure the dashboard pretty much the way he wants. So disposition the dashboards the way they want, and add the widgets that the user need. For today's demonstration, I will be focusing on this widget on top here called pending tasks, and more specifically, the purchase invoice scans. So if you remember, vendor sent the invoice by email, it gets loaded into Lumiya immediately, and now I get on my pending task a notification. Oh, Eve, you've got certain purchase invoices to process. What you need to know is that there are business rules as well that we define in Lumiya to determine when a vendor invoice comes from vendor ABC, it should go to Robert. And if it comes from vendor V90,000, it should go to Eve, and on and on. So you can build up business rules. Not one person receives everything if you've got a very high number of AP invoices in a given period of time. I'm going to focus on the first line here that you see that I'm going to try to highlight here. It refers to PO 1714. It is the invoice number from my vendor 99590. And if I drill down to it, I'll be able to actually see what the artificial intelligence engine came up with in terms of the PO reading. So if I resize this a bit, you'll see that this is the exact invoice we were looking at on my email a moment ago. So the AI tool looked at the PDF, parsed the entire document, identified everything it was able to identify, and actually slotted the proper information into the proper fields of Lumiya. For example, it recognized the invoice number in here. It's a bit tiny on my screen, but here's my invoice number. Here's the gross amount. Here's the due date, the document date, and if I the vendor, of course, and if I scroll down below, the items that were received. Now, you'll probably look at this and say, hey, this is weird because you had 3 lines in here and I see 4. Well, that's because if you remember, I had a singular purchase order with 2 goods receipts PO. So the system is actually recognizing the proper quantity of the same item. Over here, see how the computer monitor is there twice, but on 2 different good receipts number. So what you see at the bottom here is that it does refer to the PO number that the invoice referred to. And it is smart enough to identify that, hey, we've got more than one goods receipts, and here's the actual ventilation of the quantities that were received against this specific AP invoice. At this point, guys, there's nothing else to do because that invoice matches perfectly to the purchase order, and all I can do is I can simply submit this. So I verified it. There was nothing wrong with it. I can simply submit this. Now, submitting this may mean different things. And in that specific case, if I actually look back the invoice list, and if I look at those that I have processed today only, or that's yesterday's date, that's the actual invoice number. You see its status is set to approved at this point, meaning that it can actually be sent over to the ERP. Now you saw me clicking a link manually, and this is just because we're in a demo system and I want to make sure that we don't wait too long for us to get the result back into SAP Business One. But under normal circumstances, what I have done at this point is all I need to do, and I can move on to the other tasks that I have on my pending task list because the system will automatically identify that, oops, this is approved and there's no ERP invoice number. It needs to be pushed over to SAP. As a matter of fact, if I refresh my screen, eventually there will be an ERP invoice number in here that will show up when the actual AP invoice gets updated on the back end. So it sometimes takes a few seconds, like you can see right now, I've got my ERP invoice number. That means that SAP has been updated already. So if you look at what happened in a few seconds, got an email, it ended up in Lumiya, got a notification in Lumiya to go take a look at it. I looked at it. It looks perfect. Submit. It's updated to SAP Business One. Let's go back to SAP now. And let's go back into my relationship map. And now I have my AP invoice. So say, for example, that I'm exclusively an SAP Business One user, okay? And I want to see, oh, perfect, the invoice is in here. Let me look at it. Double click, perfect, that looks good. What was the invoice, the original invoice, what did it look like? I can go to the attachment and the actual invoice is linked in here as well. So not only can I view this AP invoice in Lumiya, I can also view it in SAP Business One. So if like I said, if I'm an exclusive SAP Business One user, I can still see all that information in my backend system. I'm not sure if you have seen what happened here, guys, but that should be a big time saver. Number one, you didn't have to key in the AP invoice manually. Number two, you didn't have to attach the file manually, risking some error. So there's a lot of error elimination that took place here with this simple example I have just shown you. Second example I'm going to show you for this AP process will be a bit different. Let me go back to Lumiya, back into my homepage, and back into my pending task where I have another invoice to actually go confirm. This time it will be a bit of a different process, guys. This AP invoice, when I drill down into it, first of all, actually, this is the one not for today only. I just want to see them all. Purchase invoices. Create note. Clear. I just want to see them. That's the one here I was looking for. Perfect. Okay. So if I look into this one over here, all right, if I double click on it, this AP invoice in here is an invoice that refers to an invoice that does not have any POs to it. All right. So when I look at it, I can actually view it and determine that everything is good to go on it, with the exception that this one will have to be approved by someone. So it needs to be approved because there are rules that you can build in Lumiya. You can tell, for example, the system of, oh, if a purchase invoice is below $500, has no purchase order to it, well, let it go through. But if it's over $1,000, oh, then it needs to be approved by one person. Or if it's over $5,000, it needs to be approved by three different persons. So you can have a cascade of approval. What's special about that invoice over here is if you look back into my list, it says it's been submitted, but right now it is waiting for this person called Eve Approver to actually approve the document. So what I can do at this point is I can say, well, okay, perfect. It needs to be approved, and I know Eve Approver is the next one, the one that's on whose desk right that it is sitting right now. So this is the person I can follow up with if I need to. Let me show you what happens when I am the approver. So let me log out of here and log back in as the approver. All right, so I have got a little bit of a different dashboard because I'm a different user. If I look into the pending tasks, there are certain things, and among others, I've got to approve purchase invoices. Okay, so if I go back in here, I'll be looking to my 99591 invoice we were looking at before. What I can do from the screen, guys, is I can actually select multiple AP invoices and decide to, in bulk, approve or reject them all. Alternatively, if I don't want to do this, if I want to check, see what's happening with them, I can double click on it as an approver. And as you can see, everything is grayed out. There's nothing for me to do. And I can simply look into this and say, yep, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and approve it or reject it. When you do reject a transaction, by the way, in Lumiya, you do have the ability to explain why you're rejecting it. So when it does go back to the originator, that person can actually see and understand exactly what needs to be done and why it was rejected. I'm not going to do this to you guys. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And now that it's set to approve, if I go back to my list of AP invoices and look into all of them, so 99591 is now approved. Now, I don't think this user has much authorization, so I'm going to log back out of here and back in as my other user that has a little bit more privileges. I'm going to go back to that list of AP invoice once again, just to show you that now at this point I can actually select it and push it over to the ERP. And like I said, if I don't do this manually, the system will do it automatically for me. So if I refresh that screen, eventually I'm going to get the ERP number to show up, and I'll be able to find that invoice into SAP Business One like we did in my prior example. So while we wait for the system to refresh and update the AP invoice in here, let me show you something else. Sometimes you probably go into the practice of when you receive an AP invoice, you print it, you staple it to the original PO, you file it, and put this into a filing cabinet. Well, the system here does have a filing cabinet built in. So you can go, for example, to your document search, and you can say, for example, I'm looking for purchase invoices. And on filters, you can say, you know what, there's a string of character ATX that shows up somewhere in some of my transactions. Find them for me. And the system comes back with the result saying, those are all the purchase invoices because this is what you've asked me to focus on. That's somewhere on there. There's a word ATX. If I double click on any one of them, it will open up the said transaction. In this case, a purchase invoice. Come up. Here we go. And it will actually have the word ATX somewhere in here. Now, guys, I need to explain something. I picked up a string of character that I am familiar with, so I'm sure I'm landing on something. But the string of character you're looking for can be anywhere on this PDF document. So Lumiya allows you to perform searches within PDF documents and allows you to store. This will be stored forever, and you can always go back to it. It returns the actual copy of the scanned document, gives you some information about the document itself, and what you were looking for. You were looking for the word ATX was found on a line number and on page number of your actual scanned document. Now, if we go back to my famous list of purchase invoices we were looking at before, I should by now have received an invoice number, meaning that if I go back to SAP Business One, looking to the very last AP invoice, that's the not PO related invoice. As you can tell, the relationship map is not showing anything, but yet I still have access to the attachment so I can view the content of that specific AP invoice. Okay, that's the actual AP process I just want to show you. We are scratching the surface, by the way, guys. There are numerous things we can actually do with these transactions when, for example, an invoice, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you an example of that, but sometimes the invoice number does not match. You look into it and say, for example, someone made a mistake. And the system will say, well, look, there's a balance on it. You made a mistake. What's the balance? How do I explain the balance? Did my vendor make a mistake? What was the price of my items? Coming over here. Was my price of the items not set correctly? Was there no tax when there was supposed to be a tax code? So there's numerous reasons why a document may not be exactly in balance with your system. When that happens, what you do have the ability to do, change the price, change the gross amount, Or tell the system, oh, by the way, I know there's an extra $200 in here because it's actually a freight expense. So you can go in here and say and tell the system there was $200. Let's say it's not taxable for the time being. I can add this, and now our system will say, now you're good to go. Now I think everything balances again. So just to illustrate that you can change these things, and that's one of the power of Lumiya is to be able to quickly and easily make adjustments to your AP invoice should you need to make an adjustment to them before you push them over to SAP Business One. Now you saw multiple icons here on the left-hand side. So purchasing is the one I've spent the most time into it. But before I move on to any other modules, want to also show you guys that from Lumiya, you can also create purchase requisition. You can also create purchase orders. You can also create goods receipts directly from here. So if you do have some users that, all they do really is to create POs and maybe having to sometimes review AP invoices, you will not have to buy for them an SAP Business One license. They could live here in Lumiya exclusively.
Thank you so much, Eve, for the great overview presentation. And thanks for touching on the expense module and sales module too. Just for those of you who are on the call today, if you would like to look deeper into either one of those modules, the sales module or the expense module, just let Michelle and I know, and we can definitely tee up a dedicated demonstration of those modules for you as well. So hopefully Eve was able to demonstrate the value of Lumiya brings by automating this typical manual process within organizations. So let's talk a little bit about the value of Lumiya. As we know, value in business initiatives is typically categorized into two business types or benefit types. There's soft benefits, which is the soft savings and tangible benefits. They improve operations, productivity, scale operations, reduce errors. You can see them on the slide here that's before you. But then there's also the hard benefits, tangible money savings, which directly impact the profit and loss statement. And what I did today was I just went and do a little Google search on the cost of doing an annual manual AP processing. And a general guideline that is that the cost of that is between $10 and $15. So I wanted to just take a look at a company that was doing a snapshot of 300 invoices per month. And so what I did was the current cost, if you do the basic math, you're looking at $12 per invoice. I just went halfway between 10 and 15, $3,600 a month, which is $43,200 a year. The average reduction guideline is between $7 and $3. I used $5, so $1,500 a month. So there's some real tangible benefits to that. Okay, so I just want to wrap this up. Before we get to questions, I wanted to bring your attention to some of the Vision 33 success stories that are posted on our website. These are available to you, so I encourage you to take a look at them. They're very typical. I mean, if you look at La Marzocca USA story, it's a typical process that we see with many customers, and one that Eve was able to demonstrate through the demonstration. They process about 200 invoices per month, and they use a highly manual workflow that involves the following. They get emails with AP invoices. They go around, they search for a PO or the approval request. There's an AP invoice that needs to be entered into SAP Business One, and then there's multiple or potentially multiple handoffs, which cause delays and bottlenecks. So invoices are frequently buried in other people's mailboxes because of the different lines of business, and a month-end close matching journal entries can cause potential delays as well. So with the Vision 33 Lumiya, we've automated this process for our customers.